My name is Daniela Avila. I am working at the Pompeu Fabra University. My supervisor is Nuria Sebastián Galles, and together we are working in this project or this study called Cross-Language Phonological Overlap in Bilingual Toddlers. Yes. For the introduction, I will start talking about what is co-activation or language co-activation in bilinguals. Then I will move to talk about how previous research have studied these phenomena and why the use of cognate words as stimuli and words which cross translations share the onset and do not, maybe it's a problem in the study of co-activation. So what co-activation means? What is co-activation? Well, this phenomena, this process really means that a bilingual or trilingual activates all the knowledge that they have in the languages, and it's not required for them to be actively using one of them in order to access to this other information that they already know. For example, let's imagine that we have this bilingual child, this English-Spanish bilingual child, who is hearing some speech in English. For example, she hears dog. The fact that she co-activates the knowledge that she possesses in Spanish means that upon hearing this word, she will think on dog, for example, which is the translation for dog. But this process of co-activation also speaks upon to activate words that sound similar, but not only activating the translation of the words. For example, let's see that she hears again the word dog, but in this case she thinks on dedo, and dedo means finger in Spanish. And why she would do so? Because she has the knowledge that these two words, dog in English and dedo in Spanish, share some similarity here at the onset of the label. These two words sound really alike at the start of the word. They share the phoneme B. There are plenty of models which has been proposed to explain the mechanisms under this co-activation of languages in the bilingual's mind, but I will focus mainly in these two models, especially in the Blinks models, which has been proposed to explain how the mental lexicon on a bilingual is organized. But in general, this model says that for word recognition or for speech processing, the activation flows continually based on the speech input, going from a phonological level of representation, where the information related to the phonological aspect of words or speech is stored. When I am talking about phonological information, I'm talking about how words sounds and it's related to the phonological features or the phonemes that compose the words. For example, upon hearing the word dog, I activate, or the phonemes that compose these words are also activated in this level of phonological representation. And these models also propose that upon hearing the speech, we activate the information stored in this phonological level of representation, and then it flows towards another level, which is the lexical level of representation, where actually we stored more abstract information related with concepts or with the meanings of these phonological aspects. Not, for example, if we hear in the word dog, actually at the lexical level of representation, we stored the image of a dog and all the properties that characterize a dog. That, for example, that has fur, that is sweet, that is small, that is loyal, etc. According to these models, the bilingual mental lexicon or the words that that compound the lexicon of the words that a bilingual knows. Um, it's organized based on a common semantic system that sees that for each meaning or concept, we have a single node that holds this information. For example, we have a node that holds all the information related with concepts, for example, the concept of a dog. But at the same time, we can store for each single concept node different labels associated to this concept. In the case of a bilingual, in the case of an English in Spanish bilingual, we stored the labels to call to this concept in both languages, in English and in Spanish, for example. There is a really a vast body of research on co-activation in bilinguals, but for this talk, I will talk mainly of few studies done with toddlers, with infants, uh, with bilinguals toddlers, but there is plenty of research done with adults. Um, I will talk about this study done by Katie von Holzen and Ivaritamani in 2012, where they presented to 31-month-old German toddlers learning English at a preschool with with experiment where they included two conditions. I will give you more information in the next slide, but I would like to start introducing the condition that the authors presented to the children. They presented a phonological priming cognition condition where they presented two words in quick succession that shared some that shared some similar sounds from English to German. And they also included a phonological priming to translation condition where they presented words that sound similar, but to translation. So they presented a word in English, which in the translation to German sounded really similar to something that was subsequently presented. Let's see an example from the phonological priming condition. For example, they presented the children with sentences like, yesterday I saw a slide, and then children saw two pictures of a dress and a cookie. Next, the children hear the word Kleid, which is dress in German. The idea of this study is that children will look more accurately and faster to the picture of a Clyde if previously a phonologically related word was presented, in this case, a slide, because slide in English and Clyde in German share some similar sounds at the rhyme, at the end of the word. Slide and Clyde sound similar at the rhyme. And that is what they found. They found that actually children looked more to the picture of the target, in this case Clyde, when previously they presented a phonologically related word. In this other condition, they presented children with a sentence like, yesterday I saw a leg. And then they presented two pictures and then they named a target. In this case, Stein, which in German means stone. The idea is that the looking behavior of the children would be modulated by the previous presentation of this prime, because the translation for leg is Bein, and Bein sounds similar to Stein. Okay, so the idea here is that children, upon hearing the word leg, would implicitly name the translation of this word, which is Bein, and this activation, the implicit activation of Bein, would affect the recognition of the target, in this case Stein. And this is what they found. but contrary to the phonological priming condition, here um, recognition was better when previously an unrelated word was presented. So the authors interpreted these effects as more lexically related, not that much related with the phonological, overt phonological influence on word recognition, but more based on the previous knowledge stored by the child, and working more at the lexical level of representation more than at the overt phonological level of representation. However, there is more evidence on co-activation in toddlers and, of course, in adults, where with the author studied the semantic relationship between words across languages. For example, in this study from Floki and collaborators from 2020, the authors presented to 27-month-old bilingual children learning English and an additional language with a similar priming task, where the children first heard a sentence such as, "Yesterday I saw a dog," and then the children saw two pictures, and the target was named in the other language, for example, chat, which is cat in French. The idea here is that, again, target recognition would be modulated by the semantic relationship between dog and cat, because both are animals, and regardless that the words were not presented in the same language. Interestingly, here the authors found that this was the case. So actually, target recognition was better and more accurate when previously a semantic related prime word was presented in the other language. So altogether, this research shows that bilingual children activate words that share information across languages. However, most of the research done in phonological coactivation in toddlers and young children have been using cognates to study these effects. And the problem of using these type of words, or the problem of using cognate to study these effects of phonological coactivation and word recognition, is that the cognate word sounds really similar across languages. For example, the word chocolate in English and the Spanish translation, which is chocolate. And this is a problem because it's not required for you to be proficient in Spanish. If you already know the word chocolate in English, you might guess that chocolate in Spanish means chocolate. And this is a problem because just based in the overt phonological information presented, you can guess, or you can access to the lexical content or the meaning of the word. Uh, yes. So in addition, the facilitator effects of cognate words has been found in different tasks as word decision, and in reading tasks, and of course in word recognition tasks. So cognate words are a really special type of words which it really impacts differently than others on word recognition. There is other type of word which has been used for the study of phonological coactivation, which are words that across languages share the onset. For example, the word beef in English, in Spanish means babero. Here, these two words share the onset, but most of the words are not like that, and they don't share the onset across translations. For example, the word dog in English and is perro in Spanish. So the idea is that given this phonological overlap across translations, maybe the processing of these type of words is easier than the translations that doesn't share this phonological onset. And not a problem per se, but there are many models of speech processing in monolinguals and bilinguals says or propose that actually the initial information contained in speech is really important, or really is used to start to activating the mental representation of the words. So until you gather more information from speech, you actually are really depending on what you hear first. That's it. The onset of the words has a really huge impact on word recognition. And as soon as you start hearing the onset of the word, you start to activate similar sounding words. And different study run with monolinguals and bilingual children have found these phonological priming effects only on the onset of the words. Overall, the evidence review here indicates that actually bilinguals activate words that sound similar to each other between the languages that they know, but also across languages when they hear the language. So that means that if we have an English-Spanish bilingual, this child can, upon hearing language, can activate similar sounding words in English, in Spanish, and also between them. Okay. However, usually what has the type of stimuli that has been used to study these effects have included words that already holds this overlap on themselves. For example, in the case of cognate words, where words are really similar across languages, and in the case of translation words which share the onset. In the current study, we plan, we study this phonological coactivation of words, but but using words that are not cognates, and also words that doesn't share this onset across translations. And we are doing that in order to test whether children also can co-activate words in absence of overt phonological overlap. To achieve that, we applied the visual word paradigm, which has recently been adapted for the use with toddlers, as you can find in the paper of Chow and collaborators from 2017. In this task, usually you present a target, and among the display, you present different pictures, but the target that you are naming is not there. And we are doing that in order to force children to keep searching for what is being named. And among the pictures, we presented pictures whose labels share some phonological overlap with the absent target. And we also presented pictures that were not phonologically related to translation with the target. The hypothesis is that children will look more to the pictures who share this phonological information with the target, which is absent, and they will look less, like overall, they will look less to the phonologically unrelated word pictures. Pictures. I will give you an example later. For analysis, we included the data of 30 participants, and 19 of them were females or girls, age of 3 years, more or less, who were exposed at least 20% of the time to Catalan, and 20%, and at least 20% of the time to Spanish. The experimental session was carried out mainly in Catalan. And as I mentioned before, we use the visual word paradigm, in where, as you can see, we presented 4 pictures. And in the trials, we divided the trials into 2 main phases: a pre-naming phase, in which we gave time to children to explore the screen, to explore the pictures, and after 4 seconds, we name the target, which could be present or absent in the display. And for analysis, we included the gaze movements that were recorded by the eye tracker, but only after the target naming. But only from the post-naming phase. In this study, we included different type of trials. We included a training. Initially, we included 4 training trials that had the main goal to familiarize children with the task. That's it, that they need to get used to the presence of 4 pictures and the name of one of the pictures. And then we presented blocks of 2 test trials and 1 filler trial, in which were alternated. The difference between the filler trials and the test trials that only in the test trials the target image was absent. And as I mentioned before, we did that in purpose, in order to force children to keep exploring the display. And we included the filler trials to avoid children to get frustrated by the fact that among all the pictures, we named something that is not there. In total, we presented 16 test trials and 8 filler trials. In the test trial, that as I mentioned before, we presented an absent target, for example, the word vulgaire. And among the pictures, we presented a Catalan-Spanish phonological competitor, in this case, the picture of a glass. Here, we expected children to look to the picture of the glass based on the phonological overlap between the word vulgaire and the Spanish level of the picture of the glass, which is vaso. Here, vulgaire and vaso share the onset, and only there they sound really alike based on the onset. Also, we included a Spanish to Catalan phonological competitor. In this case, was the picture of pernil, because vulgaire in Spanish is pañal and pernil, which is ham, sounds similar. So in this case, we expected the children to look to the pictures of the ham based on the phonological overlap between the translation of vulgaire, which is pañal, and the Catalan label for ham, which is pernil. Pañal and pernil share the onset. And also we included 2 phonological unrelated competitors, which were the pictures of the O, of the egg and the wolf. In the case of the phonological unrelated competitors, the words, the labels in Catalan and Spanish didn't share the onset with the absent target label. Now I will show you an example of a test trial.
Mira-o! Vulgué!
I forgot to mention that, of course, the pink dot was the gaze fixation of the children during the collected by the eye tracker. But you have seen, I think that you have figured it out by yourselves. Okay, for the statistical analysis, we carry out the logistic growth curve analysis. For the time window during the post-naming phase, that is the 3 seconds after target onset. The dependent variable was the proportion of fixations to the competitors. And As fixed effect, we include the type of competitor at the linear, quadratic, and cubic temporal term. And as random effect, we included the participant at the linear and quadratic temporal term. Here is the model syntax for the full model. For analysis, we compare this model with the base model, which was different to this one in the fact that it didn't include the fixed effect of the competitor type. And we found that actually including the type of competitor improved the model fit to the data. And this indicated the higher sensitivity to the phonological link to translation among labels. And here I am representing the fixations towards the pictures, and the ribbons represent the proportion of fixations and the standard errors, and the lines represent the model, the logistic curve model fits for the data. We also looked at the pairwise comparisons between proportion of target lookings toward the phonological related competitors and the phonologically unrelated competitors, and we found statistical differences. This difference showed that actually participants looked more at the Catalan and to both phonologically related competitors. So I'm sorry, I will repeat. So participants looked overall, they looked more to the phonologically related competitors than to the unrelated. And initially, and when comparing fixations between the Spanish to Catalan competitor and towards the Spanish to Catalan competitor, and as we can see in the figure, initially fixations were higher for the Catalan to Spanish competitor. In this case, the picture of the glass, given the phonological overlap at the onset. If we remember, the target was bulke, which sounds similar to vaso. So they looked first to the picture of the glass, but later, as the trial progressed, they looked more to the Spanish to Catalan competitor. In this case, the picture of the ham. If we remember that in the example, the target was bulke, which is pañal in Spanish, which sounds similar to pernil, which is ham in English, no? If you can remember that, according to this data, children should look at first to the glass, the Catalan to Spanish competitor, and later to the Spanish to Catalan competitor, and later to the ham. They first look to the glass and then to the ham. I will show you again the video of the test trial, and I hope that you can find this effect here.
Mira-o! Bulqué!
We can discuss about this later. Overall, these results support the young bilingual activate phonological related words across language in monolingual settings, even where the words presented are not cognates, whose L1, L2 levels have different onset. That's it when the phonological overlap is not overly presented. Remember that here we only presented one label. We only named something. And children had to mentally activate the representation of the labels in Catalan and Spanish of the pictures presented there. So that's important for this study, that we actually didn't overly present the words. So these effects are mainly driven by the activation of the mental representation of the words. And these results are congruent with some recent research done with adult bilinguals who activates words from one language to another. In this study, they found that bidirectional effects from Spanish to Basque and from Basque to Spanish. And we found also these kind of effects going from one language to the another and vice versa. And these results also could be fits really well with the Blinks model that I presented at the start of the talk, which considered that upon hearing a word, similar sounding words are activated within and across languages. And as a conclusion, we can say that young bilinguals activate phonologically related levels across language, even in the absence of overt phonological overlap, as indicated by the higher proportion of looking to images whose levels are not cognates and also has different onset to translation. And I will close my presentations showing my gratitude to all the families that participated in this study, to my colleague Gonzalo Garcia Castro, and to the technicians, Xavi Mayoral and Silvia Blanch, to our amazing lab coordinators, Katia Pristrin and Cristina Dominguez, to our research assistants, Alba Portet Pino and Cinta Bortomeu and Jordi Zaragoza. Thank you very much. I leave you here my email in case that you have more questions and you would like to discuss with me by email or through a meeting.